I hung on to that presence, to her serene calmness, knowing that if she survived it, so can I. And that is what disabled veterans do for one another. But the medical equipment and technologies that I had at Walter Reed wouldn't be available to all of the returning veterans unless there were organizations behind the effort to force changes. The DAV has been there for so many of us through the generations. You were among the first after Vietnam to teach this nation that it does not matter where you stand on the war, but you must love the warrior. And your work continues as you gather today. There are few things more important than making an impact on the lives of others, and by addressing the important legislative initiatives that will build better lives for future disabled veterans and their families, you are making life better for all of us. You made my life today possible even before I was injured. That is why the DAV holds my power of attorney and my deepest gratitude. We also need to improve mental health care for the psychologically wounded and their families, because those wounds can be extremely hard to heal, especially when we can't see them. In Illinois, we launched a first-in-the-nation program to provide veterans screening and coverage for both PTSD and TBI, and we are screening 100% of our National Guardsmen after they return home. The $8 million Illinois Warrior Assistance Program fills in the gaps that exist in the federal VA, but we should not have to do that. In fact, in the past 20 months in Illinois, the governor and I have created over $70 million in new programs that benefit our veterans. In addition to the Illinois Warrior Assistance Program, we've also helped over 450 veterans achieve the American dream of home ownership with the Illinois GI Loan for Heroes mortgage program. We've given out over $4 million in grants to not-for-profit groups serving veterans in homelessness, disability access, and long-term medical care. And I don't see where the Illinois delegation is, but I suspect they're over here because they're really loud. Oh, there they are. Hey, there you go. Commanders Dennis Thompson and Bill Musgrave and Adjutant Al Reynolds, can you stand? They have played a critical role in those $70 million in new programs in Illinois. Thank you. You can be proud of the DAV Department of Illinois for being the very first veterans organization in the state to serve on the Veterans Cash Grant Committee handing out those $4 million. They were also among the first to receive grants ranging from service officers to wheelchair-accessible vans to help vets get to their medical appointments. These are all state-level initiatives in Illinois, but we can't rely on states having the funds to step in because the federal VA has not been resourced to meet this nation's promise to its veterans. During your convention, you are targeting some of the most pressing issues facing veterans. You're right. We need to shorten the delays veterans encounter when submitting disability claims to the VA. We also need assured funding for the VA. If we make it mandatory for members of our military to serve in combat, it should then also be mandatory to care for those who serve when they return from combat. I know firsthand that the hardworking men and women of the VA caring for our service members are doing their best, but it is Washington that should do more for them. With an aging Vietnam veteran population and the growing needs of younger generations returning severely wounded from combat, the time for assured funding is now. We need to meet the needs of our veterans, especially when it comes to housing, health care, education, and employment. We must demand immediate improvements to the quality of health care veterans are receiving. The standards applied to one VA hospital should apply to all VA hospitals. We also need to end means testing. I know that no one asked me, thank you. Listen, no one asked me where I lived or how much money I made when I enlisted. I don't think anybody asked any of you either. Where we live or how much we have in our pensions now that we have bled for our country should not affect the quality of care or whether we even get access to the VA. The only way that we can achieve this is if the VA has 100% of the funds that it needs to care for all of our veterans. Many of our nation's leaders stood up this year and they fought hard for a new GI Bill, and they won, and we won. The new GI Bill will not only strengthen our military forces, but will also give veterans better opportunities to succeed and become future leaders. With such a transient life, low pay, and frequent deployments, predatory lenders find service members and veterans are their perfect target with payday loans, making it almost impossible for them to build the good credit that they need to buy a home when they're ready. Housing and mortgages should be within reach for all of our service members and veterans. And far too many of our comrades sleep on the streets each night. The VA estimates that nearly 400,000 veterans experience homelessness over the course of a year. This is simply wrong. Our nation invested in some of the finest citizens, and past, present, and future members of the military deserve the best. Why do they deserve the best? Because when our country called, when America asked, who will step forward? Who will face battle? Who will defend our Constitution? And if needed, who will die for this nation? Whether it was 1776, or the morning of December 8th, or September 12th, it was the men and women of our military who answered that call, who said, I will go. I will defend our freedom. I will protect the American way of life. And if needed, I will lay my life down so that my neighbors may live free in the greatest democracy on the face of earth. We made a promise to care for them when they returned, and we must keep this promise. I am motivated to live up to the efforts of the men and women who I served with, and especially those who saved my life. Not a day goes by that I don't say a quiet prayer in thanks of Dan Milberg carrying me out of that dusty field in Iraq. My crew who wouldn't leave me behind, as well as the soldiers, nurses, doctors, and therapists who stood by me for months helping me to regain my strength. Now, there's not a day that goes by that I don't feel that I have a special obligation, especially to those who did not make it home or who can no longer speak for themselves. I have a strong belief in this generation of wounded veterans, being as young as they are, and if they are given the right VA support that they need, they will make a difference in this country, regardless of what field they go into. I consider myself fortunate. I've been accepted back into the Illinois National Guard, and reflecting the sense of humor that the Illinois National Guard made, they made me in charge of aviation safety. That's what I said.